Michael Cage, Thunder TV analyst, and he was in the NBA for, 14 years? That sound about right, Paulie?
Yeah, I think 84 to 2000.
Oh, okay. That would be 16 years if my math would serve me correctly. Also, I believe played college basketball with Tony Gwyn at San Diego State. Michael Cage joining us. Can we confirm those things, Michael?
Yeah, let's see. Check for the years and check also with my man Tony Gwyn, God rest his soul, was a teammate of mine my freshman year at San Diego State. Spot on.
Do you think Tony Gwyn could have played in the NBA?
Yes, I do. And he was a terrific point guard, great leader on the floor, could shoot the mid-range. Now, you got to remember, when I was in college, there was no three-point line. So that three-point line wasn't so much of a factor, but I watched him shoot in practice. He had range. And man, he never told me, I got to tell you this, Dan, he never told me that he was that good of a baseball player until spring of his senior year, which was spring of my freshman year. He said, "Hey, why don't you come watch me play?" Yeah, and that was it, man. I became a fan.
What was your welcome to the NBA moment?
I was drafted as a San Diego Clipper. So you just mentioned San Diego State, my alma mater. And I was like happy as a lark. Hey, I'm local kid, San Diego State, just got drafted by the San Diego Clippers. And then 2 weeks later, I got a phone call. You need to move up to LA and get an apartment somewhere. And I said, well, what does that mean? Well, the team has moved to Los Angeles. They're now the Los Angeles Clippers. And I said, okay, this is what the NBA is like. Welcome to it, Michael.
How much of a rivalry, how lost did the Clippers get in the shadow, that huge shadow of the Lakers, when you're in the same town, but people don't even know that you're there?
Well, first of all, Dan, the LA's going to always be a Laker town. I mean, they've been there, since 55, their Minneapolis days or whatever. But when we came there, my rookie year, I saw some fans, some Billy Crystals, Penny Marshalls at the games. I was like going,
Arsenio
okay.
Hall was probably there.
Yeah, he was there. And then, when they did the infamous Coming to America movie, the writers came to the Clippers game, saw my hair, and said, "We're going to do the Soul Glow thing off of Michael Cage's hair." I said, okay, this is kind of cool. I didn't find that out till 10 years, 15 years later. But
wait, because you had a Jerry curl.
Can we keep this moving?
No, you had hair. We should talk about when you had hair, Michael. But so you had a Jerry curl.
I did.
and so they writers looked at that and said, "We're going to use that in Coming to America."
That's what I found out years later from Rolling Stones magazine that called me and says, "Hey, we want to do a story on you with the whole Coming to America feature." I said, "Well, what does that have to do with me?" He said, "Oh, you didn't know?" They said, "Well, the writers came to a Clipper game." I'm sorry, I can barely get it out sometime. You got to have a sense of humor in my house, and this is a sense of humor. I tell you the story for me. I turned around and said, "Well, tell me more." He says, "Well, they came to a Clipper game and they were trying to think up some different scenes or acts for the movie Coming to America, the original one. And they said they saw your hair." And that was when the whole Soul Glow thing came in, I tell you. And I said, okay, that's a big surprise, but I can give you whatever I can. I said, yeah, I wore it. But, I was kind of like a baptism into the entertainment industry of Hollywood for me, with the hair thing and the Soul Glow and the Jerry curl, all that stuff, man.
But if you could still have that hair, but you had to wear it now, since you're bald, would you go back? Would you do the Jerry curl?
You know about fashion, and you know about style. What goes around comes around. Is coming around, and if I could, I would, because I know I'm seeing the big afro. When I was in high school, I had a big one, man. It was bigger than Michael Jackson's in the 70s.
Whoa.
That's how big mine was in high school, my first year of college. So I'm assuming, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, because I know it's going to come back around, man.
We're talking to Michael Cage, the Thunder TV analyst and 14th overall pick by the Clippers in 1984, once led the NBA in rebounding. All right, what we saw last night felt like that was emblematic of what you saw all season long with OKC. And I'll start with SGA because I like the 8 assists. It felt like if he wasn't scoring, he would get into the paint, take the double team, and then kick out. What else stood out for you with what you saw last night? And if you're telling a Pacer fan, get ready to see more of this, what would it be?
Well, I think what you saw was a total team effort that got this team 68 wins last season because, as much as there's a lead dog in SGA, man, that dude is special, man. I've been here. This is my 11th year as a broadcaster for the Thunder. And when I got here, we had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, that whole group and that era was kind of, at its last year or two run. And then we had to retool this team and get the Chris Paul. And then, there was the in between of Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, along with Russell Westbrook. And then came the SGA story. And along with him came, a lot of hope, a lot of promise, a lot of progress, a lot of painstakingly growth. But what you saw last night, here's the answer, the bread and butter of your question. This is this team's identity. What you saw from Aaron Wiggins coming off the bench, getting 18 points, what you saw from Alex Caruso, getting 20 points. I mean, that's the identity of this team. Yeah, you can pick on SGA and say, look, we're going to try to stop him or we're going to let him score. If you let him score, he'll score 70. He'll kill you. I'm just telling you that now. So you have to respect, that, hey, he's the NBA's leading scorer, NBA's MVP, and he's not afraid of the moment, but there's a lot of depth to this team. And maybe you didn't see, maybe you saw a peekaboo of that on a couple of nights earlier in game one, where the Thunder led the whole way and then lost the game at the end on the Halliburton shot. But, the depth of this team, Isaiah Hardenstein, Chet Holmgren, I mean, Lou Dort, Cason Wallace, I've already mentioned AC and Aaron Wiggins. It just goes on, man. This is what this team is about, and that's what you're probably going to expect for the rest of the series.
Who does SGA remind you of on the offensive end?
And I say this with respect, Dan. He reminds me of a Jordan-like player. He's not afraid of contact. He's not afraid to get in the mid-range. He's got the three-point shot, in his pocket, but he pulls it out timely when he wants to. You know how it is to today's modern NBA. It's offenses are based around either the deep three-point shot or the deep paint finish. He's brought back the mid-range. When you talk about guys that like made a living in the mid-range, like the DeMar DeRozan's type players, SGA has really made teams start going, wait a minute now. Maybe we shouldn't be focusing so much on three-point shooters. Yeah, that's important. That's an important part of the game. Analytically, I believe that. But that mid-range where he dominates, where he is just fun to watch, that's where he reminds me of Jordan.
Yeah, he's Jordan under the rim. Because Mike played at a different level, literally and figuratively. But SGA can get his shot. Like you watch and you go, how does he do it? There's certain guys that you go, okay, I get, that they're great scorers or they get their shot. There's other guys where you go, I don't get it. But he keeps doing it every single night. And, when you look at consistency at leading the league in scoring, does he want to lead the league in scoring?
I don't think so. I think what I've seen in Shea since he got here after we traded for him, after one season in Los Angeles with the Clippers, I saw a scrawny kid who was just hungry, wanted to win. And when I've talked to him, when I've seen him, he's always got that kind of approach to the game. He's a magnet for friendships. I heard a story and I knew about it, but I'm glad it got out about him becoming friends, really close friends with Lou Dort. Lou's first year with the team as well. Lou didn't have a place to stay yet. And Shea had just gotten here his first season. He said, hey, why don't you stay with me? I'm not married. I don't have any kids. He's married. He has, beautiful family now, Shea does. And they were roommates for a season. And then he turned around and when we drafted J-Dub, who's going to be a rising star, tremendous player so far in this league, he said, "Look, because you're my rookie, I want you to pick me up and take me to the airport every road trip." See, that kind of camaraderie, that's pretty cool, man.
Did you have a Jordan moment?
You know, Good question. Here's my Jordan moment. Maybe he wasn't Jordan to everyone else, but I played with Michael Jordan on the national team, 1983 Pan Am Games. We won the gold medal down in Caracas, Venezuela. He was my roommate that whole summer, and he was my roommate at the Village doing the Pan Am Games and the tryouts that we had the year earlier, where there was Charles Barkley, all these, Karl Malone, John Stockton, all these up and coming names. And there was this kid that everybody wanted to see over on court three. Now I'm on court one, there's court two, court three, and they said, "There's this Jordan kid. He's at North Carolina. You got to go over there and see him." I said, "I already know about him." But I'm like going, after my game is over, I'm going over to court three and see this guy. And I saw him play, and I just said, "Man, he is so far above the rest of us." And I knew at that moment in 1982 at the tryouts and at the games in 83, this guy was going to be the truth. And he certainly was. Now, did we ever think he'd eclipse where he, got to? No, but I'm not surprised because he's handled that kind of fame and that kind of, success really well.
You seem really mild mannered, nice, cordial. Did you have
Well,
any moments with Larry Bird where he would trash talk you?
yeah, he just looked at me my rookie year and just said, "You can't stop me." And I said, "I know. There's nothing else to say. You're Larry Bird." And I got that kind of, seasoning from Magic Johnson too, because I was right there in town. I should see him at grocery stores around LA and, at the gas station sometimes, or we were all going into practice because we practiced at the same practice site at Loyola Marymount back in those days. And Magic would just come up to me and talk to me and then turn around and kick my butt. I said, I didn't know which one I like. I like the quiet bird kick your butt thing, then Magic shaking your hands. I'm going at you, right?
Thank you for the stories, Michael, and good luck the rest of the series there.
Thanks, Dan. Great having me, man. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs.
That's Michael Cage, the pride of San Diego State. Yes, NBA rebounding leader back in 1987, 88. Yeah, I had the Jerry curl. I always remember that. It's like Michael Cage, Jerry curl.